Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Variety Gaming Podcast. We've got episode 3. Today's featured game is Once Human, and our recurring segment is called Beta Gamers. Find out what that is all about later. But like I said, today's featured game is Once Human. Hey, everyone. So we recorded this episode and kind of had some post-episode clarity, if you will. We were way too nice. I was right when I say later, once human, not worth playing once. I'm not going back. I said I would in the episode. I lied. I like the beta, but I just want to play TFD. I just want to play other games, Counter-Strike, a whole bunch of other stuff. Rhaiu has played a whole bunch of, what have you played, Rhaiu? College
So,
football?
College Football 25 came out the same time this game did. Right, my wife went to visit her family for a week, left me home to play video games, to do what you were going to do. I have 25 hours in college football and 11 hours in Once Human. Once Human's a free game. You couldn't pay me to play this game. I would rather go play League of Legends sober than play Once Human again. I'd rather go play Pong, the 2-bit Pong game, than play this game. I'm not touching it again. It's getting uninstalled after this episode. I
Yeah,
can promise
so we tried to be very nice and give it a fair shot. Still listen to the episode because we do have some nice things to say about the game, generally speaking. But we just
Fair
wanted to
shot.
put
Just
this
put the daggum thing down.
we just put this disclaimer out there because we did give it a genuine go, and it is still there is some substance there, but like we
Don't
just
play
thought
this game.
we
Don't play it.
recorded it and we were like, I think we were a little bit too nice. So we would put this little excerpt at the beginning. So hopefully you still enjoy the episode, but just know that some of the things we say, we're probably just being a little too nice. Enjoy episode 3. Rhaiu, tell us a little bit give us some details. I mean, we'll get into more of like exactly what it is later, but give us like, who's it developed by, all that good stuff.
So we've got Once Human, developed and published by Starry Studio. Once Human is a multiplayer open world survival game set in a strange post-apocalyptic future. Unite with friends to fight monstrous enemies, uncover secret plots, compete for resources, and build your own territory. Once you were merely human, now you have the power to remake the world. It does not have any ESRB rating that I could find anywhere. I'm going to throw M for mature on there just because you are shooting people's heads off. You're stabbing things.
Pretty graphic.
And some of the jiggle physics are top tier. It is on PC, and it'll eventually be coming to iOS and Android. So if you're on any type of console, well, get
a PC. Or do you not have phones?
Or yeah, if you want to do this game on your phone, then oh man, more power to you. I
can't imagine.
I can't. For those of you that are more into mobile gaming, nothing wrong with it. Go to the Once Human official website. You can pre-register for the the Once Human experience on your phones. So to get into it, Atrax, I see you've got some hot takes. So let's see what you got.
All right. So look, my initial maybe half hour with this game was not a great one. I'll be honest. My first note here is Once Human, not even worth playing once. Because I was that hot. I was really upset. First of all, I hate games on Steam that update for like a few megabytes, maybe a couple of gigabytes. I mean, I downloaded the game, right? 50 gigs or something like that. Then I launched the game, and there's another 4 gig patch that I have to do before I can play the game. Like, what? Come on, I downloaded it fresh from Steam. Well, it's not even like Final Fantasy, a game that has like a separate launcher. No, the game launches, but it just 4 gigabyte patch. Here you go. Kind of ridiculous. Then I try to join the server that everybody is playing on that I know, And there's server caps, not on like active current players, like, oh, there's too many players playing on this world right now. No, but like that have ever joined the server ever. So as soon as you join the server, you take up one of those slots. So I'm like, okay, now I have to, after waiting an extra few minutes to, and again, this is totally just gamer problems. After waiting another few minutes for the game to download, then I find out can't even join my friends, so I'm going to play by myself. All right, I guess it is what it is. But then, like, the first cool boss was this giant siren. Really, really cool boss design. And I mean, I guess it was kind of a boss, not really. It had a big health bar. It was named. It was charging at you. Well, not charging. It was slowly walking towards you. And I just like stood there and shot it with my crossbow for a little bit. No mechanics, like nothing to dodge, nothing to just shot it. Just shot it in the siren head. And that was it. And then it was over. And I mean, I guess it was kind of the tutorial-ish feel. I don't know. It was kind of a tutorial, kind of not. But then after what I assumed was the tutorial, the game opened up and I realized that it is a really cool open world game. So like I did have a rough start. I was very upset, but after maybe 30 minutes or so, it got better and it's fun to run around and complete quests. There's different areas, random um towns and things like that that are scattered around the map that you can go clear. You need to find crates, you need to eliminate enemies, you need to activate these little beacons. The enemy design is pretty cool too. It's and the atmosphere as well. It is a like Rhaiu said in the intro, it's a post-apocalyptic nightmare future, and there's siren heads running around, and there's all sorts of goop and undead people and, and monsters and whatnot. Really, just a bleak scenario for everybody involved. Unless you're playing the game, it's actually not too bad. Open world aspect is cool. Atmosphere is great. Gameplay is pretty good. Crafting is fine. The common resources, wood, logs, sulfur, iron, gravel, all of that sort of stuff is relatively easy to find. I'm not a huge fan of base builders. This game does a okay job of letting those who want to base build, but those who want to just do the bare minimum, put your refineries, things of that nature up, you can. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really the base builder type, so Rhaiu will probably have a little bit more to say. He enjoyed Pal World a lot more than I did. Um, I I thought Pal World was okay, but again, this game for me a little bit better. You can focus more on doing your quests. You can focus more on crafting weapons, this and that. It's cool because you can craft your guns relatively early on in the game. Some of the other crafting games that are survival crafting games that I've played, like Rust and others, take a relatively long time in the game to get guns. This one, it's pretty quick. I think within the first 2 hours, I was able to craft guns, or at least, I needed a couple materials, but it was not that difficult to get the materials that I needed, especially when I had run past them. In these types of games, I know you need to kind of pay attention where stuff is, where stuff spawns, because you'll need to, for example, your hydration, your food, you'll need to constantly be topping those off. I didn't think that the hydration or food was too bad, but I mean, it depends. It's easy to find. You can boil your water at your base, but for some people, they don't like having to constantly top off that type of stuff. I understand it. I think in this game, it doesn't dwindle too bad. There are debuffs and whatnot for if you don't have the proper hydration and it's not stamina, food levels. Like if you're hungry, you can't. Is it HP? I believe it's HP. Your HP is diminished. If hydration is low, then your stamina is diminished. So there are consequences, but the bars don't drop too fast. It's not too bad. Like I mentioned, the crafting is also pretty solid, but I don't do base building a whole lot, so that wasn't a big thing for me. I don't know. We'll have to see how I'll play it a couple more hours. We'll have to see how it develops. But so far, yeah, my first half hour was really, really rough. I was really, really upset. And I really just wanted to play TFD or something else. But I stuck through it, and once the tutorial was over, it definitely opened up, and I'll give it a couple more hours to make a final decision on it. But not too bad. I think it's a solid game. It'll be okay. I'm interested to see how it develops over time. It's interesting. All of the servers will reset in 6 weeks, and so all of the bases and everything will just be wiped. It's kind of interesting that there's only 6 weeks. That's a really short time, but I don't know. We'll have to see how that pans out and if the next season is a little bit longer, because I don't like base building, and if I have to do it every 6 weeks, I'm out. I'm definitely not going to be playing this game for much longer, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Rhaiu, how have you been enjoying Once Human so far?
Ah, man, it is an experience. That's the best word I can come up with to describe playing this game so far. Base building is something I've done a lot of. Games, you mentioned Rust, Ark Survival, and V Rising are some of the games that I've spent a lot of time in. And they do it so much better for base building and how the systems work, how the bases work, how if you go into Ark, how like taming dinosaurs work, even Pow World. I missed you mentioned earlier. Pow World does it better on how the base designs work, how capturing the pals works, and all that. And this one just doesn't get it right. It doesn't feel like it is a proper game for base building. The most recent experience I've had with a base builder that has it right is V Rising. For those that don't know, that's more of you're a vampire, you're going to defeat these higher scale bosses, eventually get to Dracula, and you have to build a base. If you choose to go into a PvP realm, then you can go and attack other players' bases. And it's the same with any type of base builder. So, my thing is, the way that these games have it, the bases deteriorate over time. If you don't sign in, you don't maintain the resources, then eventually your base is gone. That's not the case in Once Human. It's the wipe that you mentioned every 6 weeks. You can blueprint your base, which is like their way of saving it, so then you can just, when you get back into the new world after the wipe, I could blueprint my base that I had before. I don't know if you're going to have to get those resources again to rebuild everything. If you have to, that's bad. That's a very bad design, and it's going to turn off so many people, because I'm thinking about the players who are fully committed to grinding this game, getting their 6 weeks worth of content out, and upgrading their base to like the highest tier possible. And if some of those resources are needed at the end of the game, at the end of that wipe, that's going to piss a lot of people off. It would piss me off. So that's something that they need to drastically address. I don't agree with the wipe system. This is, and we can cut it how we want, base builder, MMO. It's an MMO. There's skill trees, there are gear grindings for crafting, and there are dungeons.
And
It's
to your
it's
point,
an MMO.
and to your point, one of the things that I did not enjoy, because then I'm running through it, I'm doing this solo, not being able to join because of server caps. And then I'm running through, and there's just like all these random bases all over the place, especially towards the starting area where everyone has to build at least a base. Like, there's just so many abandoned bases just chilling, like all over the place. Like, come on, can we, But then the wipe will come through and all that'll be gone, true, but I don't know. It's whack.
Yeah.
It's an MMO for sure.
It is 100% an MMO feel. People can have their opinions on it. It has the base foundations of an MMO. See, with V Rising, when they had things like that, because they require you to put your base down as one of the introductory quests, which is fine. If you're a new player, you put your base down in one spot and then you realize, oh, this is a bad spot, and you go and put it down at another place. Well, that castle that you had previously is going to deteriorate, and eventually another player, if they find that castle, can come along and say, oh, well, I want this spot. And then they just destroy your castle. They get all the resources you left there, and they can build their castle on that plot of land. So it's free land, essentially. Now, for a base build, you would think that they would give you flat land to build your bases on, or at least have it to where it is somewhat you're able to level the terrain you're on so you can build it in a certain way. Nope. Not in this game. Not at all. If you want to build your house in the middle of the water, you can do it. It magically floats. That makes sense. If you want to build it on the side of a mountain just because you found like this one spot where it lets you place it, you could build it there. There are missions that will come into play where your base is being attacked by NPCs and you have to defend it. You decided to place it on a mountain. Well, I hate to tell you this, they can fly, and they're going to destroy your shit because you don't have any defenses. So that's something that needs to be taken into consideration with base building. And when you do find a place that you want to build your base, it clips in the wrong places. You go to put a roof on, and it's like, no, we're not going to let you put a roof on there. No, you can't build here. And it doesn't tell you why you can't build it here. It just says, no, you can't build it here. You can't place the item here. Oh, you wanted a roof on that spot? No, we're going to put it like way over here for you. And it just gets so frustrating that I find myself spending more time trying to build the base than actually playing the game.
I would argue that's the scariest fight, is the building UI. There's a lot of creepy monsters in this, but the building UI is whoo-wee. That's some scary material right there.
Oh yeah, if anyone's ever played The Sims and you go and you click on something and it's like, oh man, that's in the wrong spot. That's what you're going to get from Once Human base building, is some weird houses. So be prepared for that. And honestly, I couldn't put together this part. As much as the clipping in the wrong places were, it would clip in the strangest place. I built a full fence around my property on thin air. Couldn't explain that one. But you
That's
can't
a strong
do it.
fence.
It's a strong fence, man. If I had a defense mission, that fence is the only thing leaving. Like, I built that, and the people I were playing with were like, why? And I was like, it let me. I don't know. So I just had, my house was under the fence. Like, you could walk under my fence, get to the house, and you were there, but the fence was still there. Don't understand it. Can't pretend to. So that's something that's odd. Same thing with the fence. I couldn't build it on uneven terrain. As I mentioned before, this isn't flat areas that we can build on. It's hills, it has rocks, it has mountains, it has drops, and all that kind of stuff. You would think that the fence would just kind of edit itself automatically just so you can like kind of build your line. No. And the fence, I feel, doesn't even do anything because I could just jump over my fence to get into my property. So it's like, it's not even really defending anything at that point. Another thing, V Rising made it so we were able to, if we were playing as a duo or a trio, we're able to have one big base. Like, just go claim the plot of land we wanted, and everyone got credit for the progress we were making in the base. So if we had to upgrade a wall, upgrade this crafting table, whatever, everyone got credit for it because we were all contributing to the one base. In this game, in its current state, you cannot have one giant base for your group. Now, groups are limited to 4 people. However, there are hives, which is like the equivalent of clans. I don't know that they're going to have like, oh, you can have like one big hive thing. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. That's something that needs to be fixed. Is if I'm playing with a group of people, I want to have the ability to put them in the same base. I want my contributions, their contributions to all count for all of us. And then it feels more like an actual base builder that we have the ability to work together as a team to fight whatever the issue is, even if it's on a PvE or a PvP server. Now, this game does offer the option for PvE or PvP, depending on your preferences. So we need to have that in the game just so that way it makes it easier for groups to actually play together. Otherwise, there's just no reason for you to play in a group. There's no advantages to it. I mean, sure, you can have the instant party if you need to go do some dungeon or content or whatever, but it doesn't feel the same because their progress is at a different level because they're able to play. They're playing when you're not able to play, so that maybe they've gotten to tier 2 or 3 in their progress, and you're still at tier 1. Well, now you have to play catch up and get onto their level for you guys to even be making progress in the same direction anymore. Otherwise, those people that have progressed further are now going to have to go back and replay the same content that they have already played without any advantages to them or incentives for them to go back and redo that. Now, V Rising, and I know I keep referencing V Rising, that's just because that's the most recent base builder that I've played. That one incentivized higher leveled players to go back to the previous areas because the certain resources you needed for upgrading were still in those areas. They weren't scattered in the higher tier areas. So you needed to go back to those lower tier areas to get those resources so that way you could continue to progress yourself and you weren't leaving your friends behind. So that's something that I feel that they need to introduce with that. Now, on a positive note, because I know I've been bashing them for a little bit, on a positive note, I have enjoyed the actual combat when I've not been fighting the base building bugs. The combat feels nice. I like the different variations of the weapons. I like the sound of the weapons. I like the look of the weapons. They're good. The combat feels good playing solo. It feels better in groups. Now, I know Atrax mentioned the tutorial boss, which, yes, that is the tutorial boss. So there's not a whole lot for you to do other than kill it. They just want to show you, hey, this is how big a boss gets. Because the boss fights that I've encountered, the actual first boss, once you've gotten into the world, you've built your base, you've done a few of the missions, that boss actually does have mechanics you need to do. It'll have some items that you need to destroy. You can throw barrels at it. You can pick up his weapon and damage him with his weapon. There's a little bit of basic mechanics that you need to know. One of the dungeons I've completed recently had a secret boss that through exploring, you find, oh, well, this is a different area. And that one had some mechanics. It had ads that continued to move in and move in and move in while we're trying to capture the area or whatever. That's something that was really cool and interesting. And I felt, okay, this is where we're going to start seeing some of these boss mechanics change a little bit more. So I am enjoying the combat. It is something that is a high note for me on this game because I feel that base building combat is always kind of hit and miss, especially when it comes to switching between first person and third person, which this game does, depending on if you're ADSing or not. The story is very nice. The characters feel unique to me. At least initially they were unique. They do become a nuisance later on as I've experienced it. I just like, I don't want to talk to you. Can I just go do the mission or kill whoever it is? I don't want to have these long drawn out conversations and just sit here and slap spacebar or the F key or whatever to skip through the conversations because I don't care anymore. If you enjoy the story, more power to you. I always encourage people, enjoy the games for the stories if you do like them. If you don't and you just want to get to the content, then just skip through it. No one's going to quiz you later.
That's what I did. I skip. After TFD, after one of the games that we'll be talking about later in the recurring segment, I just skip. I'm sure it's really cool because the atmosphere is really cool. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of cool aspects to it. But honestly, it's just I'm overwhelmed with story stuff. I understand it's necessary and you have to have it in there, but nah, skip.
No. Now, another positive note. The different deviations are cool. I like the character designs. I like how they're unique to certain things. But let's be honest. This is a copy paste from Power World.
Yep.
Everything. And this was something with Atrax and I playing a little bit today that I came to the realization of. That's what this game is. It is an 18 plus version of Power World. Because when you go out and you catch these deviations, you have a percentage to catch them. Okay, just like with pals, just like with Pokemon, you have a chance to catch them and a chance to not catch them. Well, if you don't catch them, well then, you're screwed. You didn't get them. You got to wait till they come around again or you go find another one. But once you catch them, you have to take them back to your base and you put them in these little containers, which is their quote unquote beds. And then you can see, oh, they have power and they have moods. So now we have moods that we have to manage. And then there is at the bottom, it says, oh, here's how you can boost the mood of your deviation. This deviation likes long walks on the beach and being serenaded by Marvin Gaye while smelling daffodils. And yes, they will go that in detail. They will say they like music. They like crops near them. They like this particular color light that you have to build in your base to accommodate for them to be happier. And the happier they are, the more efficient they are at whatever their chosen task is. For example, there is a deviation that is a beaver. The beaver, I'll give you one guess what it does.
I bet it's really, really good at mining ore.
See, this is what's wrong with the public education system.
No, I bet its wood efficiency is very high.
Exactly. Well, it is the only deviation that will go and passively get wood for you while you are not going to get it yourself. It's the only one. So it's going to go collect the wood, bring it back, and it's just going to have it there. So then you're going to go interact with this little box, and you're going to pick up the wood that it left you. Oh, well, thank you so much. Then it's going to go back out and get more wood for you. And it's going to do that over and over and over. And there's ones for mining, and there's ones for crops, and there's ones for battle. And all of these different deviations is a copy-paste from Power World. So, and that's a big draw for people. A lot of people like Power World. A lot of people want something that's not so cartoony and bright. That's perfectly fine. It's also free to play. That's even better. You don't have to spend any money on it. I would still rather go play Power World than this game in its current state. I'm all for giving games a fair shot. I think I've sunk at least 15 hours in this game, so I've gone through my tutorial phase. I've gone through the base building. I've gotten into some boss combat, some open world exploration. I just can't. There are other base builders out there that do it better. And we've talked about them. V Rising, Rust, Power World, Arc. Like, there's so many better ways to do this, and unfortunately, the developers over at Starry Studio just didn't nail it for me. Again, these are my opinions. These are Atrax's opinions. I
Yep.
always encourage folks, especially on free to play games, it doesn't hurt you to download it, try it, see it if you like this game.
Yeah,
It's not
if
my
it
cup of tea.
interests you. Yeah, if it looks interesting because the atmosphere aside from and I've mentioned this a few times already, like genuinely the atmosphere is good. That it reminds me of the Secret World. I don't know if you ever played that MMO or not, Secret World, but it's basically like this post-apocalyptic post-apocalyptic like horror. I don't exactly know what the style is, but like there's siren heads and the monsters are just like creepy and weird. And that's one thing that I think like the monster design in this game is actually really good. And as an open world game, it would be really cool. I think either they should make it like again, my opinion, take the base building out of it. The crafting you can keep, but like take the base building stuff out of it and make it like an open world multiplayer solo co-op game. Where you just have all these different quests that you can go through and do. You can craft better weapons. Again, this is just how I personally would improve the game in its current state because this whole server building, like there's all this building stuff and then there's server limits and it seems unnecessary. I see what they're trying to do, but it's not hitting the mark. And then all this stuff that we mentioned gets reset in 6 weeks. And it's like, come on. We spent all this time and we don't even get, game of the season, a whole quarter, 3 months of time to build stuff up and really go, or not even 2 months, 6 weeks. That seems incredibly short to me. I really hope that in the future the resets are longer and they change the way that they do the server capacity. Maybe kick players that are going to be AFK for a really long time or something like that. I don't really know, but it's it's just a bit unfortunate. It's a shame too because for me, I enjoyed playing this game in its beta, which brings us to our next segment, Rhaiu, unless you have any other things to say about Once Human.
Well, one other thing that I noticed later on with this game going to mobile at some point in the future, all mobile games have one thing in common, and that is the energy mechanic, where they limit your progress because that's just what they do to try to increase players, I guess, or
Mm.
playtime. This game has it, but it's energy spent on researching. So if you, for example, if you're going to research, oh, I want to go get plants. Okay, not only do you need the upgrade points, but you also need to spend energy to do that. You have to spend energy to build weapons. You have to spend energy to build gear. You have to spend energy to upgrade your base to build things. You're going to naturally spend energy by playing the game. You're going to gain energy by completing quests, but what's going to happen, and with my friend Fiddles, who is currently level 50 in this game on another server, has shown me you could have an upwards of 50,000 energy, and you still don't have enough energy to do the content at endgame. So, that's the only other thing I have to say. Get rid of the energy mechanic, get rid of all the different resources that we have to manage. And by resources, I mean the food, the health, the disease bar, the broken limbs. That there's too many things that you have to watch and manage that it's like, I just want to play the game. I don't want to have to go run back to base to craft bandages, to get food, to get water so I could go explore now. Like, it's too much. Simplify it, and you have a great game. And into the beta news.
Our recurring segment now, another new recurring segment. It is called the Beta Gamers. So for all of you beta gamers out there, there's all sorts of different ones. I used to call them demos, which I mean, I guess demos and betas are a little bit different. And then there's also, let's see, was it demos, betas, alphas, all of that fun stuff. There's a whole bunch of different names, but basically we're talking about playing games before they come out in their very early state, before early access, where it's either limited or maybe open. There are some open betas that have happened. We'll talk about those too. But to get it started, we'll talk a little bit about the Once Human beta. I don't know if you played much of it, Rhaiu, but I played maybe 4 or 5 hours of it. I played a good amount of it, and it was pretty good. I think my experience was a little bit different coming into the new game. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe just because I kind of knew what I was getting into when I was playing it, or maybe the like the upsettedness of just, oh, I have to play this. Like there's this patch and this and that. But the beta was actually pretty fun. Again, I didn't base build a whole lot. I just ran around, crafted stuff, and shot stuff. And it was just average. And I thought, again, the atmosphere, like I've mentioned it so many times, because that's the only thing that sticks out for me for this game is this atmosphere. It was really good in the beta. I paid a lot more closer attention to the story in the beta, but I still don't remember what it was about. But yeah, that was so Once Human beta was pretty good. For me though, the most upsetting quote unquote beta for me was the multiverses beta in recent years. I love the multiverses beta. Okay. But when the actual game came out, it has changed so much from the beta. It wasn't very fun to play. It was so much, the combat was so great when it was in beta. Now, again, in my opinion, just multiverses, not that great for betas. Like it just and maybe that's not necessarily the beta's fault, but it set me up for like, oh, this is how the game is going to be great. And then they changed it and now the gameplay is so slow and it does not feel good to play. So that's I don't know. That was an unfortunate. Did you play the multiverses beta, Ryu, by any
No,
chance?
so I saw multiverses, and because I'm a big Warner Brothers and DC fan, I was intrigued when I saw, Scooby and Shaggy fighting Superman. Like I was like, "Oh, wow, that's interesting. That hasn't been done before." And then I saw the combat and I saw what was going on with it. I was like, "Ah, we're going to try to be the next Smash Brothers." Got it. No, not not at all what I'm interested in. So I've seen it. I enjoy watching it. I mentioned I want to say it was episode 2. Now, granted, on episode 2 when I was talking about the Street Fighters and your Mortal Kombats and all of those side scroll, I did not factor in platforming fighters like Smash Brothers and Multiverses. I enjoy watching people play it. I get very hyped whenever I see people doing things that I know I can't do. I'll play it to enjoy a good time with some friends at like party Smash Brawl or all that other kind of stuff. But no, I didn't jump into the beta with it too much. But I've heard, not just from you, but from a lot of the other people, that after that beta with the release of it, it just went downhill.
Yeah, it was big unfortunate. But then on the bright side, we have the first Descendant beta. Both of those were awesome, and I sunk a ton of hours into those. Both of those. And now I've sunk a ton of hours into the first Descendant. And I think for what made that beta, both of those successful for me, was it was very clear, like, oh, this is what the game was, and like this is where the game is going, but I can't access everything. So there was, oh, you can farm some of these items, but you can farm all of the items for some of the legendary weapons and for like Freyna and stuff like that, because part of the early missions gave you those pieces, but you couldn't actually farm the rest of the pieces because they were in stuff that was not in the beta. So for me, that was a really, really fun beta to be a part of. And there were a couple other betas that I have been a part of, but I've forgotten because unfortunately the games just didn't come to fruition, or I don't know, the game fizzled out, or I didn't pay attention to it. I got distracted with other stuff. But when I think of playing in a beta, I definitely think of Multiverses, First Descendant, and actually now we're Once Human, played Once Human recently, and another game that Rhaiu, you'll have a lot more to say about than I will because I played it for just a little bit and I was like, oh, all right, I'm just gonna go play Once Human. And that is Throne and Liberty, which is currently in open beta as of the recording of this episode. And I believe when we post this episode, it will end. Let's see, it'll end the day after we post this episode. So chances are, if you're listening to this, not available for you now. But Throne and Liberty in open beta, and it is a very in depth MMORPG. There are tons of menus and tons of confusing things that I was not paying attention to. I played it for an hour so far. I will play it more, but I played it for an hour and I was just like, man, this is ridiculous. It reminds me of Lost Ark, how many different menus and stuff there is. It's just like, oh, go do this, go do that, go do this, go do that. And I'm still in that mode of just spacebar, 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 fast forward, past stuff, go, go, go. But Rhaiu, what's been your experience so far with Throne and Liberty?
Oh man. So this is the second beta for Throne and Liberty I've been a part of. I was a part of the alpha test where they had the whole NDA, which I'm not going to lie, the NDA kind of threw a lot of the testers off because this game has already been released and has been out for a while in Korea. So that's why we were all confused. Like, why is there an NDA? If we wanted to, we could just go watch what it is. It's not like, but they recently released a statement given the reasoning kind of behind why, and it had to do with the current in-game economics is the best way I can put it, because pretty much what it said, for the countries that the game is backed by Amazon Game Studios, the purchasing from like real world currency to virtual currency is going to be different than what it is in Korean or in countries where the game is not backed by AGS. So that's why they had the NDA. That's what I kind of figured they were leaning towards, because in Korea, you can do pay to win. In this game, you cannot do pay to win in America or in AGS backed countries, because I don't know if they're backing other countries or what. But anyway, you can't do it. So I have been enjoying Throne and Liberty. I'll be honest, I don't pay attention to the story in these betas because that's not what I'm here for. I'm not looking for grammar. I'm not doing spell check. I don't care if the voice acting's off. That's mundane stuff to me because as a gamer, I'm not going to pay attention to it anyway. I'm sure the story is great. I'm sure the lore is super immersive. Those are never things I've been interested in. For the betas, I just want to see, okay, show me the weapons, show me the combat, show me guilds, show me why I should sink 1,600 hours of my life into this game. I reference that because SWTOR is the only game that I know of to date that I have 1,600 plus hours sunk into the game. And that is an MMO. So I love MMOs. I love the time sync. I love the power scaling and everything that they offer. So that's why I want to make sure if this is an MMO, I'm going to recommend to people, it's worth my time. I genuinely love the world. It is a massive world with Throne and Liberty. I love the fact that there's no loading screens. It's all animations. So when I'm teleporting from one spot to another, it's one long animation, and I am there. And then the players will phase in. I'm not sitting here between loading screens and everything. So that's something that I've enjoyed. I enjoy how The combat is. Now, this is more of a traditional MMO, so I mentioned Star Wars The Old Republic, World of Warcraft, tab targeting MMOs. That is what this is. It is a tab targeting MMO. So to me, the combat feels fine. I knew that going into it. I'm like, okay, it's a tab targeter. It doesn't bother me at all. I have my abilities 1 through 0 on the keyboard. I can adjust them if I need to. Mouse controls my camera. Great. It's been great. The game honestly feels polished. It feels like it's ready to be delivered. But I know that just because I'm impatient. I said the same thing about the first Descendant beta and the alpha beta and everything that I was a part of with that. I said, oh, this game's ready to go. We could just go ahead and release it. No, I know there's a bunch of stuff that the developers are going to look behind the scenes and say, oh, we can tweak this and tweak that. Throne and Liberty will release. It is a free-to-play game. For the record, you do not have to pay anything, no subscriptions or anything like that. It will be free to play on Steam as well as console. And look for an episode in the future for us to probably cover some Throne and Liberty content. At least I will be, just because I enjoy the game. I plan on sinking some time into it to fully experience it. So,
Or the Variety Gaming Podcast. Of course, we're going to cover it.
Well, there you go. Yeah, we'll cover anything. We'll cover anything and everything.
Yeah. Are you making a game and you're listening to the podcast? Get in touch with us.
Absolutely. So, it's fun. If you're hearing this and it's still out, go jump on. It'll be released September 17th, fully out to the public. I love the combat systems to it. I love the smooth transitions between transformations. So instead of mounts, you transform. So if you want to run faster on land, you can transform into a tiger. If you want to swim, you transform into an otter. If you want to fly, you transform into an eagle. Those are the base skins. They already have shown in the shop that that's going to be some of the cosmetics. Oh, I want to be a purple panther, or I want to be a turtle instead of an otter. Yeah, whatever it is. There will be cosmetics for you to do those things. I love how seamless the transformations are. I love how instant they are. Like, as soon as I hit my key to transform to sprint, I'm already in the tiger form. Or if I jump off a cliff, I'm already into the bald eagle. As soon as I hit water, I'm an otter. Like, it makes it to where there's no delay in the animations or anything. So that's something that I've appreciated with the beta.
I will agree. That's one thing that I enjoy about Throne and Liberty that I've experienced so far, and I guess I should have mentioned that, is the different forms that you have. You can glide, you can sprint. I'm sure that there are going to be more. I bet there are going to be mounts too that increase these shape-shifting factors, or some sort of adjustment that would make these shape-shifting factors like either faster, or you can glide for longer, or even when you're gliding, you can do an updraft, which will take you a little bit higher, and then you can glide farther. So that is a pretty neat thing that they're doing in Throne and Liberty. And the combat system is solid. I didn't have a didn't have a great experience. But
No,
regardless, I'll give it more time.
Yeah. So the combat, like you mentioned, the combat feels good. I like the diversity of the combat. There's a lot of weapons. I mean, a lot of weapon choices in this game. I think there's like 9 on launch, and each one plays differently. And each weapon has 3 different weapon trees that you can go into after you've selected that weapon. So you can really diversify your playstyle. For the previous beta, I decided to go with the healing, so I went with, some close range and the wand just to mix it up a little bit and see how I felt. This beta, I said, no, I want to do more damage, so I went with the longbow, which is more of like a sniper, and some daggers for some close range combat. Did not realize this in the first beta, but realized it now. I'm able to mix those abilities together. So the daggers have a poison skill that applies poison to all attacks, even my longbow attacks. Did not realize that I could be mixing things up with these play styles. So that's something I'm looking forward to, because if we're talking about like poison with a wand that adds fire, that like you just see some crazy combinations for stuff. So Throne and Liberty is going to be a game that I'm going to be sinking a lot of time into. I'm hyped for it. September can't get here fast enough. Green Day said, "Wake 'em up when it ends." Wake me when September begins, please.
Throne in Liberty.
Throne in Liberty. Some other betas I've been a part of recently. The First Descendant, like you mentioned, you hit all the high notes. I knew what I was getting into with the game. I loved how they kind of drip feed it a little bit. You can go to this point, and that's the end of it. So we knew what we were going to be getting into with this type of game. We were just going to be getting the story, the new world, the new zones after the fact, which was cool. So that game was really nice and polished. New World, the New World beta. That, if you're listening to this now, the console release, they're looking for people to do the betas for the console testing. I have no interest in that game anymore. I have no interest in being a part of that beta. New World is a great combat system game. Be prepared for minimal content once you reach the end game. That's all I'm going to say. Experience it yourself. I hope they don't make you pay full price for that thing. And the last one that I was a part of was Wayfinder. Wayfinder has recently gone from its MMO phase to the single-player co-op phase. I had an idea of what I was getting when that game was in closed beta to then open beta to early access. The game is good. Even now in the single-player co-op phase, the game is still good. Even with the transitions the team over there at Airship has made, it is a fantastic game. Give it a shot. It's a little bit more cartoony, but it is still a good game with a good storyline. Highly recommend you go pick it up. But there is one thing that I want to say, and it might be a hot take. There are so many games that go through open betas, closed betas, early access, or have technical tests. Why? Why can we not go back to the days where here's the promo for the game, oh, here's the date the game's going to come out? Now, I'm sure they had testers that they paid, and they had quality testers and all that kind of stuff in-house, or maybe they outsourced it to other developers or other people. But why? Like, I
have one guess. I could be wrong, but my assumption is the diversity of PC parts and builds. Console, it's one thing, but then it's a console exclusive, right? And even then they have console betas, but I feel like for console games it's less so. Maybe because console games are single player and whatnot. Multiplayer games are different too, because you want to see how multiplayer people, like, you want to see how a variety of people will play. But the main thing I think is for tech, and specifically for PC, because 10, 20, well, I'll say 20, 30 years ago, PCs were not that different. And the distribution, the other thing is distribution. PCs weren't different. A lot of them were just, you bought a PC, you didn't really buy parts. Now people are building their own. There's all sorts of different parts. There's this and that. You could have NVIDIA with AMD. You could have NVIDIA with Intel. You could have AMD with AMD. You could, like, there's all these different setups and configurations. But also, it was really hard to distribute betas and things like that. But they still did it, Rhaiu. They still did it. Don't you remember the PC games with the demo discs attached to them?
Oh yeah, I remember those demo discs. Like I
still have some for PlayStation 1.
Back in the day, there was and this was a sold thing for PS2. It was a demo disc of like 6 or 7 games that you would put in the console, and then you would like get a little taste of the finished game, and you could, okay, I'll go buy it. But even with your point about the tech tests, which is fine, like, I understand you want to see how this performs on lower end PCs, because let's face it, these game developers all have higher end PCs than you or I could have right now, unless we shelled out a truckload of
4K.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they know what it can look like at the highest performance settings, and they want to see, okay, well, how does this look? I guess my issue is with the amount of or live service games that are open betaed, early access, closed betas, all these different things. Because, and you even mentioned it earlier in your part with Multiverse, you were so hyped for Multiverse. You were looking forward to that, but the game didn't deliver after the beta. So my point is that there's too many betas, there's too many different things going on that it can actually cause people to lose interest in the game before it launches or set their expectations to a different level than when the game finally launches and it doesn't deliver. It's like, this isn't what I played in the beta.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's also one beta, and the last thing that I'll mention here in our segment is there's a beta that I forgot to mention, I don't know how, the Counter-Strike 2 beta, where it's like, it's a beta for a game that is going to replace a current game, and so it's really important for everybody to get input to the developers, but then it's slowly going to replace the game, so it has to be good, and there's a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of people trying to get into the beta and all this and that. And I think that's kind of that's definitely where a beta is necessary. You know, you have to have a majority of the population try it before you officially transfer over a game, especially a game of that caliber. But I agree with you. Let's stop with the early access stuff. I'm sure a lot of people are getting sick of it. And for me, like, I agree with you where it's like a demo and you just make up your decision. Are you going to play the game or are you not going to play the game? And, that's it. You're just, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I guess it's a double-edged sword for betas. But I'm looking forward to playing a little bit more Throne and Liberty. I'm looking forward to betas in the future. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode about beta testing. We talked about quite a few different betas. Let us know in the comments if, you have played some cool betas recently. If you're part of some, maybe there's some that we didn't even mention, some that we should know about. Let us know. Hit us up on X, all of that good stuff. And Once Human, what are your thoughts on Once Human? We would love to hear too. Do you enjoy it? Are you looking forward to the mobile release of Once Human, maybe? Potentially? I don't know. Let us know. We would love to hear from you. See you next week.